What is going on, everyone? Today I am making this chef's knife, and I figured I would show you guys how I fit up my bolsters or collar, spacer, whatever you want to call it. So pretty cool chef's knife. I've got some carbon fiber for the handle that I have been holding on to for so long, and it's become one of those things where when I got it, I said, oh, I'm going to use this for the perfect knife. I'm going to save it. If I keep doing that, then I'm actually never going to use it, because the reality is there probably is no perfect knife. So I figured I've had it for so long, I may as well get into it. I am in the middle of fitting up the brass bolster on the front, so that's going to go up here. The most important part here is getting your Tang prepped. So square shoulders and tapered Tang in both directions being this way and this way. Up here, right at the transition where the handle will essentially turn into the blade, should be your thickest part. Reason being is that when you start to fit this up, it should fit up to the thickest point. That way you're not seeing any gaps down the side of your front spacer. So that's where a set of calipers comes in handy, making sure you're measuring this and then all the way back to know that it all tapers to this part right here. So the first thing I did was I clamped a file guide. I have a file guide. This one I got from Brian Bump USA. It was quite expensive, but worth every penny. I had a bit of a cheaper one before, and it wasn't as good as this one. You don't necessarily need this if you want to make your own, which I had done originally years back. I just got a piece of 01 tool steel, hardened it, and then tempered it like just slightly so that when I was bumping it up against my grinder, I wasn't really grinding down that metal. These, on this one, it has 2 carbide inserts at the front, which is extremely hard metal, and when I put that up against my grinder, it does not wear it down whatsoever. So that's where this comes in handy. Put it up to the front of my Tang and make sure I get those shoulders squared, and then tapered my Tang like I said. That's step number 1. Now obviously, as you can see, I've already started on this and drilled my holes, but basically all I did was I measured the outside, or I measured how thick this was, found the center, scribed the center line, and then using my calipers, or sorry, you can use your calipers, but usually I'll stick my knife on there like that. And this is a carbide tip pen, pencil, whatever you want to call it, and I use it for scribing onto steel. And all I've done is marked the outside width, so the points I don't want to go past, I don't want to grind past, and then just the inside here of the Tang, and that's left me with a few little markers just to begin from, and then if I need to, I can go further up, further down, but making sure I don't go past those outline marks, where if I do go past, you'll start to see the gaps on the outside of your spine or your choil. So that's where I'm at right now. The other measurement you want to take is the width. So I'll get the width of my Tang here at the thickest point, right where it's going to sit up at the front, and I'll get my measurement and I'll just push it in a tiny bit, so I make sure I don't go again past that mark, and then I'll just, with this carbide tip pencil, scribe these lines And there you go. Those are the lines I'm currently aiming for. Again, everything has been sized down just a tiny bit to allow myself that room for error and room to grind down further if I do need it. Okay, now that I've got my holes drilled, I'm just gonna go back and connect all of them essentially. And the best way that I found to do that for myself is just to take the drill bit that I used to drill these holes, and I'm gonna clamp this in my vise and run my drill bit like on an angle to sort of try and hollow out that brass and connect these holes. Obviously, if you're using like steel or something that's very hard, be mindful of the drill bits that you're using or the method that you're using to hollow these out. But for me, most of the time I'm using copper, G10, and brass, which are all really, really soft materials. So something to keep in mind when you're doing this is that you always want to shoot under. You don't want to shoot, you know, for the exact measurement, because you could end up going past it and then you're gonna have to start over again. So I always shoot for under, and then once I get in here with my hand files, that's when you can really start to fine tune things. So I'm gonna clamp this in the vise and do my sketchy little thing. All right, I've got the bulk of the material drilled out. It's a nice, I got a nice gap there. Now this is where my file guide comes in handy again. So I'm going to line up my file guide with my outlines. So I line it up, tighten it, and then I have a set of mini hand files. These are super handy, and I'll just go in here and start filing down that one side. Then I'll flip it over, file down the other side, and start to practice fitting it up to see where it fits and where I need to take away more material. And it's just kind of a process of doing that, filing down, fitting up, see where I need to remove more material, going back to filing until it fits nicely. Now, if you don't have one of these, the other thing that you could do is use a bench vise. I used to use this bench vise. The jaws, I guess you would call them. I'm not sure what they're made out of, but they're fairly good. Usually, at least this one that I have. The plates are some sort of hardened material. I'm not sure what it is exactly. Even if it's not, it's good enough as a guide, because the material that you're sanding away is probably softer than this is anyways. So you'll be able to tell once you get down to there, because you'll feel the resistance from the actual jaw. So that's one thing you should do if you don't have a file guide. Anyways, I'm gonna get this thing clamped up and I'm gonna start filing away until it's nice and fit on the knife. Okay, I've got the center of my spacer ground up to those lines. So now I'm just gonna start test fitting it and see where I need to take off material. I have just this, like, I don't know, some sort of bar that I bent. I'm just gonna gently tap it until I feel some resistance, and then take it off. And I can see where I need to remove some material. If you're gonna do what I just did and sort of hammer that down, if you're using a bit more of a fragile material, be careful, because if you push it too far, it'll split right open. So now I'm just gonna go back, take this off, and file it down again until it fits. This is where I've got it fit at the moment. So you can kind of see that if I zoom in, it's not fully fit up. There's still tiny gaps on both sides. So this is the very last step. So the last thing I'm gonna do to get this thing fit right up here at the front where my tang meets the transition that's gonna be the blade, I don't make these 90-degree corners. I've rounded them, and number one, that'll put less stress on these points here, which are going to be high stress corners. So when you round that out, that's going to reduce the stress on that. And the other reason I do that is because now I can go in to my piece here and I can sort of round this corner here and this corner here, just round them out, and it should just slip right up into that, right up against those shoulders. I've refit this up as far as it goes at the moment. Now all I'm gonna do is take my pen and mark where the top of the spine is, and mark where this choil area is, so I know where I don't want to grind or where I don't want to file past. Okay, there we go. So that is fit. Nice clean edges. Choil and spine are both touching. Nice tight fit up. Obviously with forged pieces, every once in a while you could end up with little gaps. The goal is to minimize that as much as possible, but sometimes it is inevitable, and it'll usually fill up with glue when you glue it up. So anyways, the goal here obviously to get it as clean and tight as possible. Just doing the best I can. Do the best you can. Hopefully some of this helps. I forgot to shoot an outro for this video when I was filming it, so I'm back. Anyways, that is how I fit up my front bolsters. Obviously the goal to get it as tight as possible with no gaps around the front. With forged knives, there could be, you know, some little dips or tiny little holes because of the forged scale. Like I said, that's just showbiz, baby. I think the big key or the big takeaway here is to get it roughly fit and then slowly take material off both sides, test it, and keep doing that until you get the fit that you're looking for. And hopefully some of the things or tips and tricks that I shared with you can help you do that. Anyways, that's all I've got for this one. Hopefully I'll see you guys next time around. Peace.